how do you think Dennis has looked at right tackle the past couple weeks, given that he hadn't played an offensive snap the first 13 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I think Dennis has done a fine job. I love, first of all, he's got great experience. And I love the effort that he shows on every play. I think he's executed at a pretty high level and seems to be doing a great job on that right side.
Mike Spofford.
Hey, Matt, after reviewing it, what was the key to clamping down on Dalvin Cook that maybe was missing with the run defense last week?
I think everybody just playing as one, owning their responsibilities, doing their jobs. We didn't have guys flying out of gaps. I thought we tackled really well, and that is something that the previous game we did not do a very good job of.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Matt, when it comes to deciding who plays on Sunday and how much they play, how much is, I mean, maybe it's all of it, but how much of it is feel? I mean, is there any good way to figure that stuff out?
I'm sure if you asked 100 different people, they could give you 100 different answers on what we should do. So right now the mindset is going into this is we're going to play our guys, and we're going to approach it like every other game. And I just think that the reason behind that is I'm not comfortable having essentially a 3-week layoff for our guys. And I know you can look at it a million different ways, and there's never a right answer unless it works out. So, if somebody goes in there and they get injured, then, well, why'd you play your guys? But if you go out there and in that first playoff game and you lay an egg, well, why'd you rest your guys? So, there's not a right answer. Bottom line is, whatever we do, we got to go out and perform, and we know that, and that's just the way we're going to go about it.
Ryan Wood.
Going to follow up on that real quick, but I had a different question as well. When you say it like any other game, is there a possibility that you could truncate that and just have your key starters, Aaron, play a portion of the game, or like any other game, if it's competitive, you're going to play them throughout?
Yeah, I think certainly there is definitely a feel to that, and I don't want to speak in absolutes by any stretch. But yeah, I just think going into the game, you have to approach it like that. Whether a guy plays a half or 3/4 or whatever it may be, you got to go into it with the mindset that I'm going to play this whole game.
And then I'm going to sound like a broken record, but is David going to practice this week? And if he doesn't, does he need to play snaps in Detroit to be available for the playoffs? Or is there a scenario where he can just have his first snaps of the season be in the postseason?
Well, I think the ideal scenario is that he would play and get some snaps under his belt before you proceed into the postseason. But we'll see where he's at the end of the week. He will practice some this week, and again, I hate to sound like a broken record. We'll take it one day at a time.
Mark Daniels.
Hey, Matt, you got me all right?
Got you, Mark.
Matt, you said yesterday you guys have an understanding that, they haven't arrived, but I wondered over the last 16 hours or so if you've at least considered where you've arrived and what will be the NFL's longest season as the NFL's best team over that span and how you got there.
Yeah, I think it's just a credit to the guys' mindset of, trying to get better each and every day, putting in the work. Certainly we know that this doesn't guarantee anything. You got to go earn it. You got to go take it. And you do that by putting in the work. And I think our guys have really done a great job of coming in with that mentality, and that's what we need moving forward.
Mike Clemens.
Matt, in your first 3 drives on offense yesterday, some nice chunk plays from Devontae, Aaron Jones, but then a couple incompletions, and then on the third one, Dillon getting stopped. As you get to this next game in January at Lambeau, was some of that stuff yesterday missed assignments, or do you understand that some of these players, it just takes them a while to get into the game?
Yeah, I think we definitely started a little bit slow. You're right. We were able to move the ball, but we absolutely had a couple mental errors, and then there was some just lack of execution. So it was definitely not clean early. we got to be better, and we had opportunities there. I know Aaron threw a beautiful ball into the end zone that we didn't come up with or come down with. But yeah, there's certainly a lot to clean up on, really in all three phases from our game versus the Vikings.
Steve McGargy.
Wondering with Preston, what's the difference you've seen in him this season that's caused the production increase he's had? And was it something you kind of noticed as far back as training camp, or when did you kind of notice maybe a change in him going into this year?
Yeah, I think Preston came in and he was in really good shape, and he just is playing with great effort out there on the field, and it's really paid dividends for our defense, and I think that's why you see the production. It's not rocket science when you see a guy going out there doing his job and working extremely hard, and you have a talented player, they're typically going to produce. I think our guys have done a nice job of putting him in some good positions, but ultimately he's gone out there and he's won his battles.
Wes Hodkwitz.
Hey, Matt, I know last night you touched a little bit on Aaron and AJ and their production, but also with some of that the two running back package stuff that you've been running. What did you think of what you guys got out of that, and what dimension does that add to the offense?
Oh, I thought it was extremely productive, especially because both those guys are very capable out of the backfield as receivers. I think that's been evident over the course of these last 2 years. And, you know, it definitely, I think it does put a little bit of stress on a defense in terms of you really can utilize those guys interchangeably. And although we haven't to some level, you know, the possibilities are there. And so you got to account for both of those guys. And then when you surround them with other really good players like Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard, I think it just puts a lot of stress on a defense.
Greg Matzik.
Hey, Matt, kind of a build on Ryan's question here. Just wondering if you have any hesitation in your experiences as a coach, as an assistant, in putting a guy out into a starting capacity who has missed significant time. I'm thinking mainly of David and Jaire Alexander, obviously incredible talents, but time missed is time missed, and it's tough to get your feet wet, I suppose, in the playoffs. Do you have, or would you have any hesitation in that?
Well, in a perfect scenario, they would get reps, but in the regular season. But that's just, you know, we'll see if that comes to fruition this weekend or not. But you know, you're talking about two premier players, and I think they've shown enough over the course of their career that they can handle it. And I know the moment will never be too big for them. And so we've got a lot of confidence if they're available that they will play.
Chris Ross.
Hey, Matt, your guys give you a lot of credit for listening to them and getting their opinions and talking to them and so on and so forth. Obviously, Aaron and Devontae last night both said, hey, we want to play on Sunday. I'm curious how much that plays into the mindset that you described, that you're going to play your guys right now. And then how much will somebody just stepping on that toe keep you up at night this week as you make that decision?
Yeah, 100%. You definitely aren't going to put guys out there that don't want to play. That's not good for anybody. That's not going to give us the best opportunity to win, and that's what we're going to Detroit to try to do. And we know that in order to do that, we're going to have to prepare. I know this is not going to be an easy game. I just think you look back what they've been able to accomplish. Shoot, they put up a bunch of points yesterday, and then a couple weeks ago they knocked off Arizona, and Arizona's got everything to play for. So we're going to have to play our best ball in order to come out with a victory. And Detroit is a place where we have not, over the last 2 years, played particularly well, especially to start. And we've managed to find ways to win the game, but we're going to have to start much faster, really in all three phases.
Cassidy Hill.
Hey, Matt, you now own the best record for any head coach in the NFL over his first 3 seasons. When do you get to stop and reflect on that? And what does it mean to reach that milestone?
I think it's a great credit to everybody in this organization from the top down. And there's not going to be a whole lot of reflection. There's time for that, down the road. But we're going to continue to attack this with the same mindset, and that is the mindset that we've got a great game to go play in Detroit, like I just mentioned, a place that has been a tough place for us to go play.
Aaron Nagler.
Coach, you mentioned mental errors a little while ago, and I was wondering if, after grading the tape out today from last night's performance, typically do you see an uptick in mental errors in bitterly cold games? It just seems like human nature, like you maybe lose your concentration even just a little bit more because of the conditions.
No, we actually we were right about where we typically are on offense. They're bound to happen. They're inevitable. You're gonna have them in every game. I do think our guys went out there with the right focus and concentration. We made a couple adjustments to help alleviate some of those. But early on, that's where they showed up, and it's not a surprise. That's when we were the least productive. So I do think that the Viking defense does a pretty good job of kind of messing with you in some certain situations. Obviously, the one that was most notable was we had that short yardage play where we handed off to A.J. Dillon, and we had nobody blocking Kendricks in the hole. So we fanned out to Harrison Smith, who was kind of, messing with us, whether or not he was going to blitz off the edge or cover Devontae in the slot. And so we made a call where we shouldn't have. And that falls on me. Our players shouldn't even be thinking that in that situation, because we have an answer for that with Devontae running his little run solution. If Harrison does blitz off the edge, Aaron can throw the ball to Devontae. So I've got to coach that better and make sure that those types of things don't happen. But like I said, every game, it's never going to be perfect. We're going to try to make it as perfect as possible. We're going to coach it to be perfect. So there is a lot of stuff to clean up on.
Tom Silverstein.
Hey, Matt, last week you made reference to Jaire Alexander playing on both sides of the ball, and I was curious what you had him doing and why on offense. And then just as a follow-up with him, has he passed whatever test it would be for contact, for instance, tackling? Have you been able to put him through any kind of an exercise where you could test that shoulder to see if he can tackle?
Yeah, so, have you ever seen Jaire with the ball in his hand, Tom?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
So, hey, we might scheme up something for him. But no, it was more or less he was getting a lot of the work on our scout team, and he was, taking reps as a receiver, and he was doing a great job. But as far as where he is physically, I think he's getting close. I think that's kind of the final test, and it's not like we're tackling in practice. So that is a test that is tough to administer in a lot of ways in terms of we just want him to be able to feel the pads and have him be confident before we put him out there in a position where he might have to tackle somebody.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Matt, after watching more live last night and then watching him on tape after that, what did you think of what he gave your return units? And could he do for you this year what Swerve did for you a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I thought David did a great job. I thought just the ability to bounce back, obviously getting blown up on a punt return is never fun. But just showing the courage to get back in there and not only make the catch, but have the most productive punt return that we've had all year. And then he had another one where he gets blown up on the sideline. So I was really impressed by him and his ability to just have that no flinch mentality.
We'll do two more. Ryan Wood.
With Jaire and having the COVID this week, I'm curious how much that complicates things. Specifically, have you seen enough practice from him that he could, assuming the ideal scenario is for him to get snaps this week, that he could play in Detroit even if he doesn't get much practice, or does he really need to be able to practice this week to play snaps on Sunday?
Well, again, in a perfect world, you'd like him to get those practice reps. I think that's going to be quite frankly, the discussion that we're going to have as the week progresses. Do we feel confident? Does he feel confident? And if everybody feels confident that he can go out there and perform at the level that we're all accustomed to seeing him at, then he'll play. And if the answer is no, then he won't play. But a lot of it's going to come down to his health, how he's feeling. I have not talked to him yet today, so that is something that I plan on doing here very shortly, because I want to check in with him and make sure he's doing okay.
And last one, Bill Huber.
Yeah. After the game yesterday, Aaron was complimentary toward you and the staff on getting Devontae open more often in the red zone, and obviously his touchdowns have really cranked up of late. Without maybe giving away the farm here, what have you guys done to free him up, because he scored obviously a lot more than he has during the first half of the year?
Yeah, I think it's just more or less trying to move him around as much as possible, putting him in different spots, whether it's at the number 1 spot, whether it's in the slot, whether it's at number 3, and trying to, as best we can, predict how teams are going to try to play him. There's some things that you can't foresee, like what happened in Baltimore, where they got double coverage or sometimes triple coverage on him. But he's such a talented player. He's such a talented route runner. A lot of it's just building off routes he's already put on tape. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like we had one of those third downs that we had designed in the red zone last night. He had a double move where he faked the inside slant. He broke it back to the corner. Well, the defender was playing way off. That was the 4th down that we threw incomplete to him, and they didn't bite on it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And thankfully for us, we've got a really good quarterback that makes great decisions and throws with pinpoint accuracy. And so when it's not there, typically we can overcome that and get it to somebody else. But that play was one that unfortunately the design just didn't work.